Welcome to the summary of a CEO podcast, where we break down the sharpest business insights, boldest leadership lessons, and smartest strategies straight from the top. No fluff, just the powerful ideas you need to think, act, and lead like a CEO. Let's dive in.
Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a topic that many find both intriguing and, let's be honest, a little bit taboo. The potential for connection and awareness beyond our conventional understanding. We've sifted through a fascinating collection of sources, including an in-depth interview with the leading neuroscientist, Dr. Tara Swart. Our mission is to explore her remarkable personal journey and the scientific inquiry it ignited, challenging us to reconsider the limits of the human mind, our senses, and even consciousness itself.
This is truly a deep dive that asks us to re-examine fundamental assumptions. We'll be navigating scientific perspectives, powerful personal anecdotes, and even, ancient wisdom, all to explore the assertion that our capabilities extend far beyond what we typically imagine. Get ready for some insights that might just shift your worldview.
Okay, let's start with Dr. Tara Swart's incredibly compelling story. She's not just a neuroscientist, she's also a medical doctor and a psychiatrist. Her journey into this particular realm began with a profoundly personal tragedy.
Yeah, and it's remarkable how her professional background, a field that, as she herself points out, has historically, hospitalized individuals for experiences not dissimilar to her own, actually fueled her initial reluctance to speak out.
Right.
Yet it ultimately compelled her rigorous scientific investigation. Imagine the internal conflict there.
Absolutely. Tragically, she lost her husband, Robin, to leukemia almost 4 years ago, just 2 days shy of their 4th wedding anniversary. She described feeling totally lost and broken. But then she started receiving, signs from him. After being unimpressed by mediums she consulted, her brain optimization mindset kind of kicked in, and she decided to try to communicate herself.
And for years, she kept these experiences a secret. Think about it. A neuroscientist and psychiatrist experiencing things that, in her own words, could lead to a mental illness diagnosis. The taboo, the fear of professional ridicule must have been immense.
Oh, completely.
Yet her personal experiences pushed her to seek answers, not just, dismissals.
And here's the kicker. After years of research, Dr. Swart states she is 100% certain about her findings.
Wow.
That's an incredibly powerful assertion from someone with her scientific credentials, especially concerning a topic so often relegated to the unprovable. How does she reconcile that level of certainty with the inherent scientific challenges?
Well, I think her certainty seems to stem from the accumulation of consistent, repeated patterns and experiences, coupled with her developing a scientific framework to understand them. She's not asking for blind faith, exactly.
Right.
She's saying the evidence for her, personally and through her research lens, is overwhelming. And that prompted her to look for scientific explanations rather than just dismissing the phenomena themselves.
Okay, so if we're capable of more, where does this expanded capability begin? Dr. Swart starts by challenging our fundamental understanding of our own biology. Most of us think we have 5 senses, right?
Right, the standard 5. But her extensive literature review suggests we actually possess something like 34 senses.
34.
Yeah, it extends far beyond sight and sound. It encompasses things like proprioception, which is your sense of where your body is in space, or sensing the pH of your blood, the balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide.
Things happening inside us.
Exactly. Many of these are non-conscious, operating below our awareness, yet they reveal a much richer tapestry of information processing than we typically acknowledge. It really hints at a broader perceptual bandwidth.
This next assertion from Dr. Swart is truly thought-provoking. She proposes that this expanded suite of senses, combined with other phenomena, directly challenges the established idea that the mind is solely a product of the physical brain. Can you elaborate on how she makes that connection?
She postulates that the mind, psyche, or soul can exist separately from the body. Her personal experience after Robin's passing gave her this profound feeling that his essence, his consciousness, was not contained just within his physical body anymore. And this isn't just a philosophical musing for her. It became a driving force for her scientific inquiry.
To back this up, she points to 2 incredible and frankly baffling phenomena. First, terminal lucidity.
Yes.
Imagine an 82-year-old woman with severe Alzheimer's, nonverbal, unresponsive for years. Then, maybe a day before her death, she suddenly sits up, recognizes her daughter by name, speaks coherently, reminisces. It's as if she was never ill.
And then passes away peacefully shortly after.
Exactly. It's baffling for science. I mean, how can a severely damaged brain suddenly function perfectly normally, even temporarily? There's no current explanation.
None. And second, there are near-death experiences, or NDEs. Dr. Swart, being a medical professional herself, found the accounts of other doctors particularly compelling.
Right, like the orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Mary Neal. She was submerged underwater for, 15, 20 minutes? Clinically should have had severe brain damage.
Well, worse.
Or worse. And she described this detailed journey to another realm, being told her life wasn't over.
And then there's Dr. Eben Alexander, remember him? An atheist neurosurgeon.
Yes. Who, after a coma from bacterial meningitis, clinically died and then experienced what he vividly described as heaven. It completely changed his worldview.
But perhaps the most evidential story, maybe, comes from Dr. Bruce Grayson. He's researched over 5,000 NDE cases.
Get this one. In one powerful, verifiable NDE case he documented, an ICU patient reported seeing his primary nurse during his NDE. Problem was, he didn't know she had recently died.
Oh, wow.
And she gave him a message for her parents. I'm sorry about the red MG.
A specific detail.
Very specific. The patient relayed this message to a temporary nurse, who apparently burst into tears, confirming the primary nurse had in fact died crashing her red MG sports car. The patient had absolutely no way of knowing this precise external detail.
It's hard to explain away.
These accounts are certainly compelling. So Dr. Swart suggests that perhaps at the border of life and death, we might glimpse a truth that's always present, but we just don't acknowledge it while we're alive and well.
Which is?
That the mind and body can potentially operate independently.
Precisely. It really challenges the standard materialist view by presenting these instances where consciousness appears to transcend the physical brain, even when the brain is severely compromised or, clinically inactive.
This leads us then to the signs themselves, the personal ones Dr. Swart experienced. They're vivid. She describes seeing an unusual number of robins, her husband's name, every time she went to the window right after his death.
An occurrence she noted was rare before and became rare again afterwards.
Exactly. But perhaps more dramatically, about 6 weeks after he passed, she was woken by what she described as a massive thump to her shoulder.
Physical sensation.
A physical thump. And she saw a vague, hazy version of Robin next to her bed, which apparently became clearer for a moment before dissolving.
That kind of profound physical and visual experience.
Yeah.
Well, it would certainly propel anyone's quest for understanding, wouldn't it?
You'd think so. She also realized how her body seemed to remember trauma. On the first anniversary of Robin's passing, she suddenly experienced aches and pains all over her body. It started precisely on October 4th, which she later realized was the exact day she had taken him home from the hospital to die, a date she hadn't consciously recalled until the physical symptoms emerged.
That really illustrates the concept of somatic memory, doesn't it? Trauma held not just in the mind, but deep within the body's tissues, in the fascia. Phrases like, I'm speechless or feeling choked up can be literal indications of this physical shutdown.
Right.
And Dr. Swart found that physical therapies, things like massage, dance, tai chi, were crucial for releasing this deeply embedded, non-verbalized trauma. Talk therapy alone often can't reach it.
So initially these connections felt like, maybe coincidences. But over time, she says she reached a point where she felt she could ask for specific signs and get them.
Okay.
She gave the example of asking Robin for the sign of a phoenix before a trip. And then she found a restaurant called the Phoenix Garden, and later even had an unexpected flight connection through Phoenix, Arizona.
On the exact anniversary of his death. Now, for many, this sounds like extraordinary synchronicity, maybe meaningful coincidence. But others might immediately point to confirmation bias.
Of course, the brain's tendency to find patterns we're looking for. How does she address that? Distinguishing between genuine connection and our own attentional bias.
She absolutely acknowledges confirmation bias. She's a scientist, after all.
Right.
However, she argues that we can intentionally use this mechanism to our advantage. She calls it the art of noticing.
Yeah.
Basically, actively training your reticular activating system, or RAS.
That's the brain's filter, right? Mediating arousal and attention.
Exactly. Training that network to filter for what you want to see or are open to seeing. It's about consciously sort of loosening or directing that filter rather than just letting life pass by on autopilot at 100 miles an hour.
So it's an active process of paying attention differently.
Yes. She even experienced something called thought insertion, symptoms sometimes associated with schizophrenia, where you feel thoughts aren't your own.
And she realized that grief, in many ways, can actually mimic aspects of psychosis. It profoundly alters brain chemistry. But instead of being overwhelmed by that, she found a way to work with it, viewing it as a vulnerable state that could perhaps also be a conduit for expanded awareness.
Her comparison of cultivating this ability to see signs, she says it's like going to the gym or learning a new language.
Right.
It requires belief, consistent practice, and a real willingness to be open to experiences that are outside the norm. It sounds like an active engagement, not just passively waiting for things to happen.
So how does she try to make sense of all this scientifically? Dr. Swart delves into a model called shared trait vulnerability. It examines the known high correlation between creativity and certain mental illnesses.
Okay, tell me more.
This model highlights 3 key neurological underpinnings. First, hyperconnectivity, meaning more brain lobes, especially visual and association areas, firing simultaneously, basically joining dots others don't see. Second, novelty salience.
Okay, noticing new things.
Right, noticing new or important things that others might automatically filter out as irrelevant. And third, attenuated latent inhibition.
Attenuated latent inhibition. Break that down.
Okay, imagine your brain usually filters out a huge amount of background sensory stuff, like the hum of your computer or the feeling of your clothes.
Right, you tune it out.
Attenuated latent inhibition means that filter is looser. More novel, unfiltered information comes into your conscious awareness than is typical for most people. So if you combine these traits, hyperconnectivity, novelty salience, loose filter with a high IQ and cognitive flexibility, Dr. Swart suggests it can lead to profound creativity, seeing connections no one else does. But if those cognitive resources, like high IQ or flexibility, are lacking, the same traits can unfortunately lead to a psychological crisis because the person is overwhelmed by the influx of information and unusual connections. So Dr. Swart viewed her own grief, much like psychosis in some ways, as this vulnerable state, but also as a potential conduit for expanded awareness, if she could learn to consciously loosen the filter as I choose, as she puts it.
And the physical body plays a surprisingly central role in this expanded awareness, right? You mentioned somatic memory.
Yes, exactly. She discusses the serotonin hypothesis in relation to trauma, suggesting that trauma isn't just psychological, but physically embedded in the fascia.
The connective tissue network throughout our entire body.
Right. Which is why she emphasizes physical activities, dancing, singing, even ancient practices like wailing or chest beating as crucial for releasing this deeply embedded trauma, things that talking therapy often can't reach directly.
And the gut-brain axis.
She also emphasizes that heavily. The gut-brain axis, this 3-way communication system between the brain, the neurons in your gut, the second brain, and your gut microbiome. She calls it the most direct way to influence your brain health and overall well-being.
So how does gut health connect to something like intuition or expanded awareness?
It's fundamentally about reducing inflammation throughout the entire system. A typical modern Western diet, for instance, can cause dysbiosis and imbalance in gut bacteria.
Which leads to inflammation.
Exactly. And that inflammation doesn't just stay in the gut, it can cross the blood-brain barrier and potentially damage vulnerable brain cells. So, by optimizing gut health, reducing inflammation, we create the optimal physical foundation for higher mental functions.
Including accessing levels of intuition or maybe innate wisdom we didn't even know we possessed.
That's the idea. And it's not just physical well-being either. She also stresses the importance of engaging with neuroscience, actively noticing and appreciating beauty around you.
Okay.
Spending time in nature, which she knows is where many people report experiencing signs or a sense of connection, and fostering community and open dialogue about these experiences. All these practices contribute to opening up our perception, expanding our awareness.
It's a very holistic view.
Very. This idea of expanded awareness also directly connects to exploring altered states of consciousness. Dr. Swart actually investigated dark retreats.
Originating in Tibetan tradition, right? Spending days or weeks in complete darkness.
Exactly. Complete sensory deprivation.
It sounds intense, but it's a fascinating method, almost like trying to emulate certain aspects of a near-death experience non-pharmacologically.
How so?
Well, individuals in these retreats eventually report seeing light, complex imagery, sometimes animals or even deities, all in total darkness. And critically, people often emerge reporting increased joy for life, less fear of death, and more compassion.
Many of the same profound after effects reported by NDE experiencers.
Exactly.
She also notes that altered states aren't always so extreme or induced. They can be achieved through practices like conscious connected breathwork.
Which can produce effects similar to moderate doses of psychedelics, according to some studies.
Right. Or even through powerful immersive experiences in nature or art. She mentions sitting in the wings at a ballet, feeling completely integrated into the performance as an example of such a state.
What's really compelling, though, is that you don't necessarily need to have these direct, intense experiences yourself to gain some benefit.
How do you mean?
Research actually shows that simply learning about NDE's reading accounts, understanding the phenomena, can provide similar psychological benefits for over a year.
Just hearing about them.
Yeah, things like increased compassion, more gratitude, reduced materialism. It suggests the power of knowledge, belief, and perspective itself to shape our outlook on life and death.
That's fascinating. She points to our ancestors, too, who lived so intimately connected to nature. They saw cloud formations not just as weather signs, but potentially as ancestors speaking to them.
A different way of perceiving interconnectedness.
Right. And she mentions phenomena we now understand scientifically, like slime mold, forming complex structures, almost like a single organism, or vast underground mycelial networks feeding entire forests for centuries. These highlight an interconnectedness that might have once seemed fantastical or purely metaphorical.
Dr. Swart then poses a really critical question. Why is this whole conversation still so deeply taboo in many circles?
Yeah, why?
She believes there's an immense potential benefit to humanity in actually asking these questions, especially now, in a world often characterized by rampant individualism and what some call a widespread crisis of meaning. She argues for a return to true connection to self, to others, and perhaps to something greater than ourselves, a connection that is deep, meaningful, and fundamentally altruistic.
So if we consider all this, what does it truly mean? It suggests that maybe our inherent human need or capacity to believe in something transcendent, something beyond the purely material, it could actually be profoundly beneficial for us.
Right, fostering purpose, resilience, a healthier way of being.
Even while acknowledging, of course, that deeply held beliefs can sometimes lead to destructive behaviors. But the core idea here seems to be the positive psychological impact of having a purpose that extends beyond just oneself.
A sense of belonging to something larger.
Exactly. Dr. Swart's personal journey through grief is naturally still unfolding, but she describes herself now as much better. She also spoke about feeling a clear purpose to fulfill, one she feels Robin wants her to pursue.
And what is that purpose?
A unique ability, she feels, to help people who are struggling through similar experiences of loss and questioning, bridging that gap between personal experience and scientific understanding.
And that's a crucial point for a neuroscientist, isn't it? Her ability to integrate such deeply personal, subjective experience with rigorous scientific inquiry, and then offer that combined perspective backed by her qualifications. It's quite rare.
It really is. It provides a kind of bridge between the subjective world of personal experience and the objective framework of science. And for those of us, perhaps listening, who still feel anchored firmly to the material worldview, she offers a powerful reminder. Animals already possess senses far beyond our own limited 5 or even 34.
Good point. Dogs and cats can smell diseases, sometimes sense imminent death.
Right. And blind people can actually learn and rewire their visual cortex for echolocation, using sound to see. That's a sense humans aren't typically built for, yet it's learnable, demonstrating the brain's incredible plasticity.
And think about the history of science itself. Consider Russell Foster. He was initially ridiculed by the scientific community for suggesting a completely new type of photoreceptor cell in our retinas.
The one that senses time.
Exactly. Sensing the light-dark cycle for our circadian rhythms, separate from rods and cones used for vision. Years later, melanopsin cells were identified, proving him absolutely correct.
It just illustrates how science is constantly pushing boundaries, doesn't it? What we deem unprovable or even impossible today might well be accepted scientific fact tomorrow.
Precisely. She seems to embrace the beauty of not knowing everything, seeing it not as a failure, but as the ongoing quest of science, and frankly, of life itself.
And while she personally hopes to find more concrete answers before she dies, she readily acknowledges she might only find them after. There's an acceptance of the vast unknown there.
A certain humility before the mystery.
This has been a truly remarkable deep dive, exploring Dr. Tara Swart's assertion that we are capable of so much more than we typically think. As a neuroscientist and psychiatrist, she's shared a powerful, if definitely challenging, perspective on grief, consciousness, and our capacity for connection that seems to extend beyond the veil of the currently known.
Yet what really stands out here is the compelling synthesis she creates. It's this blend of rigorous scientific inquiry, her deeply personal and transforming experiences, and also wisdom gleaned from ancient traditions. It genuinely encourages us to reevaluate our understanding of the mind, the body, and maybe the interconnectedness of all things.
Definitely pushes the boundaries of what we might accept as reality.
For sure.
From that idea of 34 senses, which is mind-boggling in itself, to the really profound implications of things like terminal lucidity and those verifiable near-death experiences. We've touched on concepts that seriously stretch the limits of our current scientific models. This deep dive has really explored how we might cultivate our own art of noticing, how we can connect to the wisdom held within our own bodies, and perhaps, just perhaps, a glimpse of bigger picture of what might lie beyond our everyday perception.
And Dr. Swart's journey challenges us to consider, as she puts it, that maybe at the border of life and death we see something that is true all along, but we don't, for whatever reason, see it or acknowledge it whilst we're alive and well.
Which is that the mind and body can operate independently of each other. That's a profound potential shift in perspective, isn't it?
It really is.
So we leave you with this thought to ponder. What if the greatest act of scientific curiosity, and maybe even of living a fuller, more meaningful life, isn't actually about having all the answers? What if it's about courageously asking the really big questions, the uncomfortable ones, and daring to be open to possibilities that lie just beyond our current comfortable and